I'm Sarah Stock and I'm the Managing Director of Independence Matters. I was the head of service for Norfolk County Council, so I was the lead in terms of taking my services forward and instigating the spin out of those services into the social enterprise. For me, that's hugely important, because what your name and your brand is something that you're going to live with. You know, it's not something that you just kind of have for the next 12 months or whatever. You know, you want it to live into the future. It's what your company is going to be known by. Your brand also is about setting, you know, it tells your story. So it's about your vision, it's about what your mission is, it's about your values, it's about how you want people to actually behave in the company. And again, for me, if I was going to kind of wind the clock back, I would have started our branding much earlier. It's something that people can really hook into, can buy into. It's something that's very visual, it's something that people can see. And as I say, lots of the time you'll be doing stuff almost behind the scenes and your frontline staff won't see lots of that go on. So this is something that you can get people engaged in very early on, you know, choosing the name. And also I think, I mean, in our journey we worked with John Lewis. You know, we worked closely with our John Lewis store because that was a brand that people said that they, you know, they valued, they respected, they thought that they had a very good kind of trusted brand. So we worked closely with them to look at how they built and developed develop their brand. So I think it's hugely important. Well, our board represents our governance structure. So our board is very simple. We have 2 staff directors, so that represents the democratic voice that the staff have. We have 2 stakeholder directors and they're family carers at the moment. We have myself and the finance director from the company. We have a council director because the company, the council still have a share in the company. And then very importantly, we have 3 non-executive directors, and one of those is the chair of the company. And I was very clear that I wanted people from a commercial background in terms of those commercial directors. And I was also very clear that I wanted them from a particular sector. So I wanted them from either the retail sector or from this kind of hospitality sector, because they would bring that commercial edge, but it's a very similar business. So our business is all about, you know, a business to customer relationship. It's based on repeat custom, it's based on excellent customer service, it's based on, you know, loyalty, that type of thing. So we went for that because they have the same values as we have, and they were happy to share all of their kind of you know, trade secrets, if you like. We're no competition to them. So that was very important to me. And I think if I was going to say about learning, for me, it would be about this is your board going forward. So there may be a bit of pressure. For me, there was a bit of pressure when I was in the council still to appoint my board in the council. I didn't want to do that, and I guess I had the confidence to not do that. I wanted to wait until I was out of the council to appoint, particularly the non-executives one, because I knew that I would have a different network actually to draw on then. And as I say, they're your board. You want them to challenge you, but you want them to support you. You want them to work with you. So yeah, don't be pressurised into doing it too early, I would say. I mean, in practice, on a day-to-day basis, there's no impact really. They don't. We have a very good supportive relationship with them. They do want us to innovate. They want us to do things differently. So day-to-day, you know, they leave us alone. We have one point of contact, so that's Steve Holland. He's our main point of contact if there are any queries or questions that we have. We have the council director that sits on the company board, and then we also have what we call a quarterly enterprise development board, and that's a board that Harold chairs and Steve sits on and commissioners sit on, and that's about monitoring the contract that we have, but also about supporting the enterprise to kind of go forward. So actually for us, that kind of mutual works very well at the moment.
My name is Paul Janssen. I'm Director of Consulting at Stepping Out. We specialize in helping public sector organizations become independent social businesses. For this particular project, I was involved from the very start when Norfolk County Council was still looking into the idea of spinning out their adult social care services. And I helped them through the whole process, basically developing their business plan, getting their thoughts together on how this would work and whether it would be viable, help them sell it internally, and I helped them all the way through to the launch of the company ultimately into Independence Matters. Well, there are a lot of technical elements to a project like this, so it's important that the in-house team get expert advice on matters such as the legal aspects of setting up an independent company, the financial aspects, calculating through the viability of it all, making sure that they've got it all modeled and that they've got the ingredients for the contract right. It's important also that the HR aspects and organizational development aspects are covered well, so that you understand what the implications will be for the people that run the organization. And it's also really important that you got some sort of marketing strategy and branding plan together, so that the new organization starts off really with the best possible chances of success. And it's that kind of package of support that Stepping Out is expert in bringing together, and that's how we've helped various adult social care services to spin out successfully. Well, apart from all the practical factors that you need to be bringing together in a project such as this, which I referred to earlier, the one single factor that makes this a success is the amount of leadership that is shown throughout the whole process. And this is leadership both on the side of the spinning out organization and leadership on the side of the mother organization, in this case the council that spins the service out. And why this is important is that on the independent matter side, the spinning out organization side, it's really important that the drive and the passion keeps being brought through from the top team, and that leadership is shown so that staff and other stakeholders are confident that this will be a successful venture in the end. But it's also really important that leadership is shown on the council side, because there's a lot of elements that need to be coming together. There's a lot of support required from the council organization. There's a lot of willingness required from the council organization to make this a success. And without leadership from the very top of the organization in the council, this is unlikely to come together, and that's why it's so essential that is shown very early on. And I was very happy to see that in Norfolk's case, this was very much present from all sides, and that's what made this implementation such a successful case. A process like this can take several years, to be fair, if you consider the very start of the organization thinking about whether it's possible to spin out as an independent organization or what other options are available to them, all the way through to making a decision and looking at the viability of this venture, all the way down to then actually launching the independent company. Now, the latter stage between green light for the business plan and actually implementing the organization and launching it typically takes about 6 to 7 months, so that's not too long. But the process preceding that can take considerably longer, because organizations on the whole really need some time to get their heads around the concept of spinning out, need to gain a good understanding of what it takes to become a social enterprise, what the risks are for the council, what the risks are for the service users, what the risks are for other stakeholders, and that can typically take 1 or 2 years.
I'm Harold Bodmer. I'm the Executive Director of Adult Social Services for Norfolk County Council. My role really was to keep an oversight of this, to support the strategy for moving this forward, for setting up a social enterprise, for making sure that we had it properly resourced, that we had a proper project around this. I suppose more importantly, I think, to make sure that we understood the risks for both the council and the organisation itself. And I have a key role in talking to members, to elected members about this, and making sure, since they overall are responsible for the strategy of the council, for making sure that they supported it and understood it. More complex because in the middle of the work around this, of course, we had a county council election, so we had a change of administration. So I needed to make sure that we had members on board with this fairly radical proposal for Norfolk County Council.
Hi, so my name's Steve Holland. My role in relation to setting up Independence Matters was to act for the council as the programme director, make sure that the model was going to work, make sure the whole thing would fly, and then make sure that we implemented it successfully. Well, my job started pretty early on, making sure that this is something that the staff themselves actually wanted to do, to develop the model or models that we thought might work, make sure staff understood those, then put together the more technical side of it and the financial case, take that through to elected members in the council, convince them that it was a good thing to do, convince the director that it was a good thing to do, and then really help with the implementation and rollout. I also drafted up the contract that actually sealed the deal for the company as well. Well, I represent the council in relation to the management of the contract itself. The ownership issue hasn't really been a significant issue for us. What has been really challenging but also exciting is actually having a stream of new ideas and thinking from the company itself, which I've had to think about and then socialise, if you will, back at the council itself, which we take to what we call our Enterprise Development Board. And already the company's business plan has innovation written right the way through it, and the company has already changed in a significant way the way it actually delivers the care business itself.
I'm Richard Bryce, I'm a Director of Blue Star Human Resources, and I was involved in the people management aspects of Independence Matters spin-out from Norfolk County Council. It was really to help advise on the people management aspects of the project. So from the transfer of undertakings, protection of employment regulations, through to some of the aspects of culture change associated with the spin-out. I think it's easiest to take the policies with them from the council. The reason for that is that they'll end up in a wrangle, I suspect, with trade unions over changing policies when some of them are going to be contractual anyway and therefore covered under TUPE. So my counsel usually would be to take the policies on block and then if they need to change them later to think about that downstream. I think there are a couple of things that I would suggest in that. I think one is thinking about the commercial aspects of an organisation going forward, but really also acting in a way that is fast and flexible, and maybe not always something which has come from the legacy business from which the spin-out has occurred. Okay, well, I mean, one of the must-haves is making sure that there is compliance with TUPE, the transfer of undertakings, protection of employment regulations. I mean, having said that, that has to happen. It's relatively straightforward in terms of the spin-out organisation, and it's done in association with the parent organisation. So, I mean, that has to be done, so that is a must-have. I would also say, though, that preparing people in the new organisation for the change in environment, in business environment, is also key. Now, I think that's a continual process, but I think ideally that should start before the spin-out and then carry through the spin-out into the future. As I said earlier, culture change is something that takes a considerable amount of time. It's about changing the way that people think and react in their new environment, so it does take a good deal of time.
Hi, I'm Digby Chacksfield. I'm the Chief Executive of the Eastern Enterprise Hub. At the Eastern Enterprise Hub, we want everybody in the world to be able to set up a successful venture of whatever kind that is. My role in supporting Independence Matters to set up was designing, developing and delivering the internal development programme, which was supporting all staff to understand and begin to develop a commercial awareness and to explore ways that they could change their behaviours that fit an independent, trading, commercially minded social enterprise away from a local authority. It's essential because for local authorities, it's becoming increasingly popular for certain companies to separate from the local authority, certain service areas, and set up on their own as social enterprises. The reality for an organisation at all levels for that is that they are moving from a protected environment of a local authority, a hierarchical organisation, to becoming something that is much more commercially sensitive. So they have to be able to move quickly and take opportunities. They have to have a stronger and higher sense of the customer needs and the customer relationship, and to win new business. So it's essential that the culture begins to move away from a traditional local authority mindset where somebody else is paying for this and my role is just to do my day job, to a mindset that is, I believe in the mission of this overall social enterprise and I'm going to work with my customers and clients and seek opportunities that will help the organisation to grow. It's essential when you're starting a new company, any company, whether it's a spin-out from a local authority or you're starting from scratch in the business environment, that you build yourselves a network of support. If a spin-out is only relying on the support it gets internally from the council, that becomes very isolating once they're separated, because as soon as the social enterprise is separate or the mutual is separate, the relationship will shift to being one of, this is my organisation, the council, to being the council are one of my key customers. If you want to develop a commercial sense and a strong business from that, you need to be linking into the business networks, because the social enterprise will have landed in this external commercial world. They will be fighting in a marketplace, and businesses take years to develop a very strong base and a good network. So the council spin-outs have an opportunity while they're still in the council to begin to develop external relationships and external support. If you've got the guidance of somebody external to do that, it can help you get straight into the business network, and to bring business leaders into the organisation from external companies, so that the employees start to feel less like they're just part of the council and more like they are an independent trading organisation. It's very easy. I think what prevents it is nerves, and if you're used to a certain approach. The thing that makes it easy is the passion for doing the job that they're doing. It's a social enterprise. It has, independent sponsors have a massive social impact on Norfolk and Suffolk and beyond. And it's that passion that will enable people to make the change, the bigger vision, why are they doing it. The nerves come because people think that being an independent business requires some high level of knowledge, when really it just is about practice. And it's for adults, it's about them coming to a starting point in their new role saying, I'm going to learn from this, it's going to be hard, but I'm going to learn how to be, commercially minded. But I'm driven inside by that social good that we're doing. So I think it's totally, wholly possible, particularly in the current climate, because social impact is on everybody's minds, whether you're a full fat profit business or whether you're a spin out or whether you're a charity. So I think that the culture is right for people to be able to do that. I've got three. One is the leadership team need to be absolutely clear on what their vision is and what structure they want to take out. So if they are spinning out one department or service area, they need to focus on what that's going to look like when it's a business outside, and not get tempted to take on other bits of service area, because it's going to be hard work whatever they do. The other is the finances. They have to have guaranteed cash flow to help them start up. These spin-outs are not small one-person startups. They are, independent spin-outs got 600-700 staff. That's big. So if you haven't got the cash flow right, you could be causing yourself a lot of problems. So usually, and Norfolk County Council were brilliant in this. They guarantee a certain amount of income. Sometimes it reduces over time as the external work comes in. The other aspect of the finances is really knowing how much it costs you to run that business. So the cash flow projections, but also the internal costings, gets complicated because county councils, district councils, they have back office costs. Those are often enmeshed with the operational side of it. So it's hard to separate the two. They have to get that right. They have to know how much it's going to cost them to run it and to double check and triple check so that they're not getting suddenly find that they're paying for something they either don't need or is costing them a lot of money. So I think it's to do with the leadership and the vision. I think it's to do with the cash flow and understanding your finances, and also having having some good ideas about how you're going to generate the income once you're out there. Because the starting point will be nice and comfy with county council money, but the reality is they have to partner with other people to do joint contracts. They have to hunt down those contracts, and how do they bring those in and shore up their business going forward.
My name's David Oldham. I'm an independent finance director. I was the interim finance director at Independence Matters from July 13 through to August 2014. I was hired as an interim finance director and commercial director. A lot of my work in the early stages and certainly before we launched was about negotiating the service contract that we had with Norfolk County Council and working with Steve Holland on the Norfolk County Council side to get an agreement that both sides could work with. And I then went on and helped set up the finances, the financial reporting and other performance reporting, and also made sure that we had a set of accounts that could be audited at the end of the initial financial period. Well, I think the biggest difference is that there's a lot more finality about the level of income that you have. So if you're part of a local authority and it looks like you're going to be spending more than your original budget, there's usually ways in which money can be found from other budgets to help you balance the books. Whereas as an independent organisation, while there was some flexibility in terms of the level of activity that we were going to be doing, our income was our income. If it wasn't enough, that was our problem. If it was too much, then we actually kept the difference and could use that to invest in other services. So that just changed the approach that we took to financial management right from the start. I think most spin-outs have got someone lined up that they want to be their finance director from well before go live. So if it's part of an organisation that has a finance business partner, then quite often it will be that finance business partner that becomes the finance director of the spin-out organisation. Because in the case of Independence Matters, we were going to continue to use the support services of Norfolk County Council, the finance and HR and IT support, then those people were actually going to stay within the County Council. And therefore it became important to get someone from outside to actually look at things from the point of view of Independence Matters. And to work solely for Independence Matters, whereas a lot of the people who were doing the day-to-day finance were actually employees of Norfolk County Council. It was helpful for me to be an interim because we weren't quite sure before go live really how big a role that was going to be, and because I was able to be flexible with the amount of time that I was inputting to Independence Matters, it meant that we could go for about 6 months and really get a feel for what the role should be and how much resource we would need to put in it. So it's quite a good opportunity for Independence Matters to actually judge things over those first 6 months without committing to, for instance, hiring a full-time finance director. I think the most important thing to have sorted early doors is a real clarity about the services that you're transferring across, about who that will be, whose budget that's coming from, and a recognition that expenditure will be removed from the sponsoring organisation's budgets. so that you're very clear about what your income is and what that's supposed to cover. That's really the most important thing. The other thing that I think was really valuable from Independence Matters' point of view was to get that brand up and running, and that really helped the staff have some sort of brand loyalty before we'd even gone live. That meant they felt like they were part of a different organisation, right from the get-go. And that made a real difference to us as an organisation. It made people think a little bit differently.
Hello, I'm Bridget Parker and I run No Nonsense Marketing and Communications. I've worked with Independence Matters right from the start of the process, through thinking through what their initial brand was going to be all about, the values that would underpin that brand, making sure all the staff are fully engaged in that process and fed into what sort of business they wanted to create and what they wanted it to stand for, and then helping them develop all of their marketing collateral and then ultimately taking it all to market. It's important for any organisation. A spin-out's no different than any other business. It needs to create a really, really strong brand that's going to underpin how it does business and really, really reflect the way that it wants to do business going forward. It needs to create a brand that makes it unique and special and different in the marketplace, that its customers will connect with and remember and feel real affection and affinity for. They're an important part of the marketing mix. They need to address all aspects of marketing. They need to have a really, really strong website. They need to make sure that they've got good, solid marketing collateral in terms of brochures. They need to make sure they've got a communications and PR strategy in place. Social media is all part of the mix. It's a way of engaging with their audience. It's a way of rewarding the partners that they work with. It's also a free way of getting their message out there, but it needs to be part of the integrated whole marketing mix. The must-haves are a strong brand that the whole organisation has bought into and that everybody understands the values of the new brand going forward. They need to have their shop window set out in terms of a good website that sort of sets out their stall in terms of the services they provide and the way that they're going to do business. They need to have their brochures in place. They need to have an idea of their communication strategy going forward, how they're going to talk and communicate with their respective stakeholders, whether that's staff, whether that's the social services commissioners that they're going to have to continue to deal with, but in a different way, and also their wider customers. So they need to have a strategy in terms of how they're going to get that brand out there to the wider world.
Good morning. Hi, my name's George Kaur. I work for NP Law as a solicitor. NP Law is a shared legal service based at Norfolk County Council, and we act for a number of local authorities and other bodies in the region and elsewhere. I'm essentially a local government solicitor specialising in commercial law. My role was to advise the County Council on the formation, the project generally. With this project, we were very lucky because we had a very proactive project manager, and this enabled us to work in tandem with the team. The issues for the lawyers involved in this sort of transaction, we need to spot things early, and in that this is covering new ground, we had to be alert to procurement issues, state aid, general formation of the entity concerned. There are also pensions issues, there are employee transfer issues, and many of these things take a long time to gear up. Like any specialism, we have resource issues ourselves. We need to make sure we have the right people involved, and we need to plan our work streams. So with this project manager, we were able to think about what was entailed for us and for the client, the County Council, and mentioning some of those legal issues, things like consultation, bearing in mind the nature of the services provided here, whether they're statutory or otherwise, whether there are expectations that these services will continue to be provided to the community and the public at large. Those things need to be taken into consideration. I mentioned pensions and TUPE, and obviously there are pressures from the employees' side to get things right. We need to prepare and plan for those, and that also includes a consultation. For the County Council, the key concern at the time, or a key concern, related to procurement law and the difficulty of ensuring that control of the company was maintained. When a shareholder is involved with as a part owner of a company, often a shareholders agreement we put in place, and that will establish the rules of the game, as it were, between the participants. In this case, we felt quite strongly that the articles should enshrine those forms of control, and that's our focus. Now, things have moved on in terms of the procurement issue, and in fact, the Public Contracts Regulations 2015, Regulation 77, now provides for the setting up of a contract with an outsourced organisation such as Independence Matters. So the rules have changed a little bit, but we were focusing on a solution to that issue at the time, and that involved working closely or focusing closely on the articles. The answer to this question probably lies in the structure that was set up. We were involved, as I've indicated, from very early on, so we were able to engage with the client, the County Council, as to the issues that we thought were important, and these related to control and also making sure that the end product had what it needed in terms of the staff. So if we think of the I suppose the communities of interest, the pools of interest in this, we've got the community at large, we've got and service users, we've got our staff. We're also very closely involved with members because there's a democratic process to this, and representatives of the employees as well. So we worked closely with members and actually with trade union representatives as well at various points to ensure that all interested parties had buy-in to the project as it proceeded. The go live, from the sort of the get-go for the new spin-out, very much rested on having a contract in place. The contract is there to ensure, certainty in particular as to risk. So one source of interest in all this would have been the market and competitors to Independence Matters, and we need to be very sure that if anything, that the services the entity was to provide to the County Council were established with a clean starting point. So, for example, if someone raised an issue of subsidisation and state aid, we could measure the beginning, the commencement of the contract, and ensure that there was no unfair subsidy from that point. If something went wrong with services, we would make sure the right insurances were in place or the right protections were there so that recovery could take place. Also, the employees needed to be absolutely certain when their transfer took place because of all sorts of reasons, not least of which being payroll and secondly pension contributions. So those are the sorts of things which were very important to have right in place, firmly in place from the start date.